November 6, 1917. 2:15 in the morning. The village of Passchendaele, Belgium. Corporal Francis Pegamagabo slipped through the barbed wire into no man's land, his Ross rifle slung across his back, and a canvas bag containing 30 rounds of ammunition secured to his belt. What he was about to attempt violated every British Army regulation regarding sniper operations. But in the next 8 hours, this Ojibwe warrior from Ontario would eliminate 30 German soldiers using a technique that military doctrine declared impossible and suicidal. The story of how Francis Pegamagabo became the deadliest sniper in the history of warfare begins not with military training, but with centuries of indigenous hunting traditions passed down through generations of Anishinaabe peoples. Born on March 9, 1891, on the Shawanaga First Nation Reserve near Georgian Bay, Pegamagabo learned to track, stalk, and kill from his grandfather Noah Nebimaniquad, who had raised his orphaned father decades earlier. These skills, refined through countless hours hunting deer, moose, and bear in the forests of northern Ontario, would prove devastatingly effective against human prey on the battlefields of Europe. When the Great War erupted in August 1914, Francis Pegamagabo was working as a marine fireman for the Department of Marine and Fisheries, tending boiler rooms on ships that crossed the Great Lakes. Despite being exempt from military service as a member of the First Nations, he enlisted voluntarily on August 13, just 9 days after Britain declared war on Germany. His motivation was deeply personal. His grandfather had fought alongside the British during the War of 1812, and Pegamagabo viewed military service as a continuation of his family's warrior tradition. The editor of the Parry Sound North Star newspaper captured the significance of his enlistment. His grandfather was a warrior and chief and fought for the British in 1812, so the boy comes by his fighting instincts from a long line of ancestors who fought in the Indian Wars. We are all hoping Francis will distinguish himself as his forefathers did, and will return home covered with glory and medals. His example might well be followed. The prediction would prove prophetic beyond anyone's imagination. Pegamagabo was assigned to the 23rd Regiment Northern Pioneers, then transferred to the 1st Canadian Infantry Battalion as part of the Canadian Expeditionary Force. After training at Valcartier, Quebec, and additional preparation in England, he arrived in France in February 1915 as part of the 20,000-strong 1st Canadian Division. The trenches of the Western Front presented a landscape of horror that challenged even the most experienced soldiers. But for Pegamagabo, the cratered moonscape of no man's land resembled the hunting grounds of his youth magnified into nightmare proportions. British sniper doctrine in 1915 emphasized daylight operations from fixed positions within friendly trenches. Snipers were expected to work in pairs, with one man observing while the other fired. Movement beyond the front lines was strictly forbidden except during organized raids involving large numbers of troops. The reasoning was sound. No man's land was swept by machine gun fire illuminated by flares and seeded with barbed wire designed to channel attackers into predetermined killing zones. Any soldier venturing alone into this wasteland faced almost certain death. Pegamagabo studied these tactics during his first months on the Western Front and concluded that British doctrine was fundamentally flawed. Daylight sniping revealed muzzle flashes and shooting positions to enemy observers. Fixed positions could be targeted by artillery once located. Most critically, operating from friendly trenches limited engagement opportunities to targets of convenience rather than targets of choice. The indigenous warrior traditions of his ancestors suggested a radically different approach. The Anishinaabe hunting methods Pegamagabo had learned emphasized patience, stealth, and intimate knowledge of terrain. Successful hunters studied their prey's behavior patterns, identified feeding areas and travel routes, then positioned themselves to intercept animals at optimal locations. The hunter became part of the landscape, invisible and motionless for hours or even days until the perfect opportunity presented itself. These principles, Pegamagabo realized, could be adapted for hunting human prey, His first opportunity to test unconventional tactics came during the Second Battle of Ypres in April 1915. The Germans had unleashed chlorine gas for the first time on the Western Front, devastating Allied positions and creating gaps in the line that desperate commanders struggled to fill. In the chaos following the gas attack, Pega Magabo volunteered for message-carrying duties that required movement between isolated units. These missions took him repeatedly into no man's land, where he observed German defensive positions and troop movements with the trained eye of a lifelong hunter. The experience convinced Pega Magabo that no man's land offered tactical opportunities that daylight operations could never exploit. German sentries followed predictable routines. Supply parties used established routes. Officers conducted inspections at regular intervals. Most importantly, darkness provided concealment that allowed a skilled infiltrator to position himself within effective rifle range of high-value targets. The key was understanding that no man's land was not an impassable barrier, but a hunting ground where indigenous fieldcraft could provide decisive advantages. Pega Magabo began developing what he privately called his night hunting technique. The method required meticulous preparation that began hours before each mission. He studied German positions through binoculars, identifying sniper posts, machine gun nests, command bunkers, and communication trenches. Wind direction and speed were calculated to ensure that sounds would not carry to enemy positions. Moon phases were considered to provide optimal visibility while maintaining concealment. Most critically, escape routes were planned and memorized to enable rapid withdrawal after engaging targets. The equipment for night hunting was carefully selected to maximize stealth and effectiveness. Pega Magabo modified his Ross rifle by wrapping the barrel in cloth to prevent reflection and padding the bolt action to eliminate metallic sounds. His ammunition load was limited to 30 rounds carried in a specially constructed canvas pouch. His face and hands were darkened with mud to eliminate skin reflection. The most revolutionary aspect of Pega Magabo's technique was his use of camouflaged hides constructed in no man's land itself. Rather than firing from Allied trenches, he would infiltrate enemy territory under cover of darkness and construct concealed positions within 100 yards of German lines. These hides were masterpieces of fieldcraft, utilizing shell craters and debris piles to create shooting positions that were invisible even in daylight. The tactical advantages of forward positioning were enormous. From concealed hides in no man's land, Pega Magabo could observe German trenches in detail impossible from Allied lines. He identified individual officers by their behavior patterns and uniforms. He tracked supply schedules and guard rotations. Most importantly, he could engage targets at close range where his marksmanship skills were most effective. A German officer who considered himself safely behind his own lines became a viable target for a sniper positioned 50 yards from his command post. Pega Magabo's first successful night hunting operation occurred in May 1915 during static trench warfare near Festubert. Intelligence reports indicated that German sniper activity had increased dramatically, with several Allied officers killed by accurate rifle fire from unknown positions. Conventional counter-sniper tactics had failed to identify the enemy shooters, who seemed capable of striking from multiple directions without revealing their locations. Allied commanders suspected the Germans were using advanced camouflage techniques or possibly tunneling systems to achieve such tactical flexibility. Rather than attempting to locate German snipers from Allied trenches, Pega Magabo proposed infiltrating no man's land to observe enemy positions directly. His commanding officer initially rejected the plan as suicidal, but mounting casualties forced reconsideration. On May 17th, Pega Magabo was authorized to conduct a solo reconnaissance mission with orders to gather intelligence on German sniper positions without engaging enemy targets. The mission began at midnight under overcast skies that provided ideal concealment conditions. Pega Magabo slipped through Allied wire and began the painstaking process of crossing no man's land. Movement was conducted in short rushes between shell craters, with long pauses to observe German positions and ensure his approach remained undetected. The journey covered less than 200 yards, but required 3 hours to complete safely. His chosen observation position was a water-filled shell crater approximately 75 yards from the German front line. The crater provided excellent concealment while offering clear sight lines to enemy trenches and communication areas. Pega-Magabao settled into position just before dawn and began the patient observation process that would reveal German operational patterns. What he discovered exceeded all expectations and provided the foundation for revolutionary changes in Allied sniper tactics. German sniper positions were not concealed within their own trenches as Allied intelligence had assumed. Instead, German marksmen were using advanced hides constructed in no man's land, exactly as Pega-Magabao had envisioned for Allied operations. These positions were expertly camouflaged and positioned to provide overlapping fields of fire that dominated key areas of the battlefield. The German snipers worked in carefully coordinated teams, with observers directing shooters to high-value targets while maintaining communication through concealed telephone lines. More importantly, Pega-Magabao identified specific German personnel responsible for recent Allied casualties. From his concealed position, he observed a German sniper team operating from a camouflaged position built into a destroyed farmhouse foundation. The team consisted of an experienced sergeant who served as primary shooter and a younger soldier responsible for observation and ammunition supply. Both men followed predictable routines that offered engagement opportunities for a properly positioned Allied sniper. Instead of immediately returning to Allied lines with this intelligence, Pega-Magabao made a decision that would transform his personal approach to warfare. The German sniper position was vulnerable to attack from his current location. The range was less than 100 yards, well within the effective capability of his Ross rifle. Weather conditions provided excellent visibility while maintaining concealment. Most critically, successful elimination of the German team would immediately improve Allied security while demonstrating the effectiveness of forward positioning tactics. Pega-Magabao spent the remainder of the day observing German routines and planning his attack. The enemy sniper team maintained position from dawn until dusk, with the sergeant conducting regular equipment checks and the observers scanning Allied lines through binoculars. Supply personnel visited the position twice daily, bringing food and ammunition via a concealed communication trench. Guard changes occurred every 4 hours, with replacement personnel following established routes that offered additional targeting opportunities. The attack was scheduled for late afternoon, when lighting conditions favored accurate rifle fire while shadows provided concealment for Pega-Magabao's escape. At 1640 hours, the German sergeant began his routine equipment inspection, presenting a clear target silhouette against the lighter background of his camouflaged position. Pega-Magabao aligned his rifle sights, controlled his breathing, and fired a single shot that struck the German sniper in the head, killing him instantly. The observer reacted immediately, attempting to locate the source of the incoming fire while calling for assistance through his field telephone. Pega-Magabao's second shot eliminated this threat before effective communication could be established. The suppressed firing position prevented German forces from determining the direction of attack, creating confusion that enabled Pega-Magabao to remain concealed while observing the enemy response. German reaction forces arrived within minutes, but their search focused on suspected Allied sniper positions within the enemy trench system. No consideration was given to the possibility that an Allied marksman might be operating from no man's land itself. This tactical blind spot enabled Pega-Magabao to remain concealed throughout the day, while gathering additional intelligence on German defensive arrangements and personnel. As darkness fell, Pega-Magabao began his withdrawal to Allied lines. The return journey was conducted with extreme caution, as German forces had increased patrol activity in response to the sniper attack. Movement was limited to periods when cloud cover obscured the moon, with extended stops to monitor German search patterns. The successful completion of this mission established Pega-Magabao's reputation as an exceptional sniper, while validating his innovative tactical approach. The intelligence gathered during this operation proved invaluable for Allied planning. Pega Magabao's detailed observations revealed German sniper networks, communication systems, and defensive weaknesses that conventional reconnaissance had failed to identify. More importantly, his successful elimination of experienced German marksmen immediately reduced enemy sniper effectiveness while demonstrating that forward positioning tactics could achieve results impossible through conventional methods. Word of Pega Magabao's tactical innovation spread rapidly through the 1st Canadian Division. Other snipers began requesting permission to attempt similar operations, though few possessed the fieldcraft skills necessary for successful implementation. British sniper instructors studied Pega Magabao's methods and incorporated selected elements into official training programs. However, the complete night hunting technique remained too dangerous for widespread adoption by soldiers lacking indigenous hunting backgrounds. Pega Magabao's commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel Frank Albert Creighton, initially nominated him for the Distinguished Conduct Medal in recognition of his innovative tactics and exceptional results. The citation emphasized his disregard for danger and faithfulness to duty during operations that consistently achieved superior results compared to conventional methods. However, military bureaucracy intervened, and the decoration was downgraded to the Military Medal, reflecting institutional reluctance to fully embrace unconventional tactics. Despite official hesitation, Pega Magabao continued refining his night hunting techniques throughout 1915 and 1916. Each mission provided opportunities to test new approaches and improve existing methods. He developed specialized equipment including modified ammunition for reduced muzzle flash, improvised silencers to minimize firing signatures, and advanced camouflage materials that enabled construction of virtually invisible shooting positions. The psychological impact of these operations extended far beyond immediate tactical results. German forces became increasingly concerned about their vulnerability to unexpected attacks from positions that should have been impossible to occupy. Patrol frequencies increased dramatically as commanders attempted to secure no man's land against infiltration. Guard rotations were randomized to prevent pattern recognition by Allied observers. Most significantly, German sniper teams became reluctant to operate from forward positions, reducing their effectiveness against Allied targets. Pega Magabao's reputation reached its peak during the Battle of the Somme in July 1916. Canadian commanders authorized him to conduct extended infiltration missions behind German lines lasting up to a week. These operations required exceptional endurance, as he established temporary bases in abandoned buildings, moving only at night while systematically mapping German positions during daylight. The intelligence gathered proved crucial for Allied planning. Pega Magabao identified machine gun positions, located artillery pieces, and documented patrol routes that enabled coordinated attacks. His detailed maps allowed attacking infantry to avoid heavily defended areas while concentrating forces against weak points. During the 2-week period, his confirmed kill count exceeded 50 German soldiers. The tactical methodology for these extended operations required unprecedented levels of preparation and execution. Pega Magabao would spend weeks studying target areas through binoculars and periscopes, identifying optimal infiltration routes and potential hide sites. Supply caches were pre-positioned at multiple locations to enable sustained operations without resupply from Allied lines. Communication arrangements included pre-arranged signals that allowed coordination with Allied artillery and infantry attacks. Each killing was planned with meticulous attention to tactical considerations beyond simple marksmanship. Target selection prioritized individuals whose elimination would have maximum impact on German operational effectiveness. Officers were preferred over enlisted personnel. Communications specialists were targeted to disrupt command and control systems. Weapon crew members were eliminated to reduce defensive firepower. Medical personnel were avoided in accordance with international conventions, though Pega Magabao's adherence to these restrictions often complicated mission planning. Timing of engagements was coordinated with broader Allied operations to maximize confusion and prevent effective German responses. Attacks were often synchronized with artillery bombardments that masked rifle reports while preventing immediate investigation of sniper positions. Multiple targets were engaged in rapid succession to create the impression of larger Allied forces operating behind German lines. Escape routes were planned to take advantage of German reinforcement patterns that typically focused on suspected infiltration points. The psychological warfare aspects of night hunting operations proved as significant as direct tactical results. German forces developed acute anxiety about their vulnerability to unseen attackers who could strike at any time from any direction. Sleep deprivation became common as soldiers remained constantly alert for potential threats. Morale declined as personnel realized that conventional defensive measures provided inadequate protection against skilled infiltrators employing unconventional tactics. German attempts to counter Pega-Magabo's methods met with limited success. Increased patrol activity failed to locate his concealed positions. Counter-sniper operations proved ineffective because he never fired from the same position twice. The most significant German countermeasure involved deploying specialized sniper teams drawn from experienced hunters, but even these units struggled against his superior fieldcraft techniques. The climax of Pega-Magabo's night hunting career occurred during the Second Battle of Passchendaele in November 1917. The offensive required elimination of German observation posts that were directing devastating artillery fire against Allied attacking forces. These positions were heavily defended and positioned in locations that made conventional assault extremely costly. Canadian commanders specifically requested Pega-Magabo to neutralize these targets using his specialized infiltration techniques. The mission that would result in 30 confirmed kills in a single night began with 2 weeks of intensive preparation. Pega-Magabo studied the target area using aerial photographs, prisoner interrogations, and personal reconnaissance to identify German positions and defensive arrangements. 3 separate infiltration routes were planned to provide tactical flexibility and emergency escape options. Supply caches were established at multiple locations to enable extended operations if immediate withdrawal proved impossible. The attack began at 02:15 hours on November 6 under ideal weather conditions. Heavy overcast skies provided complete darkness, while recent rain had softened the ground to muffle movement sounds. German artillery fire had decreased due to ammunition shortages, reducing the risk of random bombardments that might compromise concealed positions. Most importantly, intelligence indicated that German forces were exhausted from continuous defensive operations and might be less vigilant than normal. Pega-Magabo's route took him through a maze of shell craters and destroyed defensive positions that provided excellent concealment while allowing rapid movement toward German lines. His destination was a complex of interconnected observation posts that coordinated artillery fire against Allied positions. These installations were defended by approximately 40 German soldiers, including officers, communications personnel, and security details responsible for perimeter defense. The first engagement occurred at 04:30 hours when Pega-Magabo eliminated a German sentry whose position commanded a critical approach route to the main observation complex. The shot was fired from a range of 60 yards using a single rifle round that killed the target instantly while remaining undetected by other German personnel. Pega-Magabo immediately changed position to avoid potential counterfire while observing German reactions to the missing sentry. German security procedures required hourly reports from all sentry positions, creating a timeline that limited Pega-Magabo's operational window before the attack would be discovered. He used this constraint to his advantage by planning a systematic elimination sequence that would maximize tactical impact while maintaining concealment for as long as possible. Primary targets included communications personnel, artillery observers, and officers whose elimination would disrupt German defensive coordination. The second engagement eliminated a German signals operator who was maintaining telephone communication with artillery positions. This attack was conducted from a concealed position within the German trench system itself, where Pega-Magabo had infiltrated using drainage tunnels that connected defensive positions. The elimination of communications capability prevented German forces from requesting immediate artillery support, while creating confusion about the nature and scope of the Allied attack. Subsequent engagements followed in rapid succession as Pega Magabo moved systematically through the German position complex. His knowledge of enemy layouts, gained through previous reconnaissance missions, enabled efficient movement between targets while avoiding security personnel and automated defensive systems. Each engagement was planned to eliminate specific tactical threats while maintaining overall operational security until the final phases of the mission. The tactical brilliance of this operation lay in Pega Magabo's ability to create the impression of a large-scale Allied assault while operating as a single infiltrator. German defenders, faced with casualties from multiple directions and unable to maintain communications with supporting units, assumed they were confronting a major enemy offensive. This misperception led to tactical decisions that actually assisted Pega Magabo's mission by concentrating German forces in defensive positions that were easily observed and engaged. By 0800 hours, Pega Magabo had eliminated 30 German soldiers, including 12 officers, 8 communications personnel, and 10 support staff responsible for artillery coordination and defensive operations. The systematic destruction of the German observation network effectively blinded enemy artillery while eliminating the command structure responsible for coordinating defensive fire against Allied attacks. The tactical impact extended far beyond simple casualty figures to encompass complete disruption of German defensive capabilities in this critical sector. The withdrawal phase of the operation demonstrated Pega Magabo's tactical sophistication and his understanding of German reaction patterns. Rather than immediately retreating to Allied lines, he remained concealed within the German position complex to observe enemy responses and gather additional intelligence. This decision provided valuable insights into German emergency procedures while enabling real-time assessment of the mission's tactical impact. German reinforcements arrived within 2 hours, but their response was hampered by the systematic elimination of communications personnel and command structures. Confusion about the nature and scale of the attack led to uncoordinated defensive measures that actually provided additional targeting opportunities for Pega Magabo. Several German officers were eliminated while attempting to restore communications or coordinate reinforcement deployment, further compounding the tactical disruption. The successful completion of this operation established Pega Magabo's reputation as the most effective sniper in Canadian military history, while validating night hunting as a legitimate tactical doctrine. His confirmed kill total of 378 enemy soldiers exceeded the achievements of any other sniper in World War I, including renowned German marksmen whose skills had terrorized Allied forces throughout the conflict. More importantly, his tactical innovations influenced sniper doctrine development and training programs that continued to evolve throughout the 20th century. The psychological impact of Pega Magabo's operations extended throughout German forces on the Western Front. Intelligence reports indicated that enemy morale had been significantly affected by the knowledge that Allied forces possessed specialists capable of penetrating German defensive positions and eliminating personnel with apparent impunity. Sleep patterns were disrupted as soldiers remained constantly alert for potential infiltrators. Patrol schedules were modified to provide additional security, diverting resources from offensive operations to defensive precautions. The war ended in November 1918, and Pega Magabo was invalided back to Canada in April 1919. His military record included the Military Medal with 2 bars, making him one of only 37 Canadians to receive this recognition. However, despite his distinguished service, he returned to find himself still treated as a second-class citizen, due to discriminatory laws affecting Indigenous peoples. Francis Pega Magabo died on August 5, 1952, from complications related to his wartime gas exposure. Modern military historians consider him the most effective sniper in warfare history, with confirmed kills exceeding those of famous snipers from later conflicts who benefited from superior equipment. His tactical innovations influenced sniper doctrine development throughout the 20th century, with special operations forces adopting modified versions of his infiltration techniques. The night hunting techniques that Pega Magabo developed represented more than tactical innovation. They demonstrated how traditional indigenous knowledge could be adapted to modern warfare with devastating effectiveness. His success challenged conventional military thinking while proving that unconventional approaches could achieve impossible results. The 30 German soldiers eliminated during that single night at Passchendaele represented the culmination of tactical genius, informed by centuries of indigenous hunting wisdom. On November 6, 1917, in the mud of no man's land, Francis Pega Magabo had proven that an illegal technique could become the deadliest innovation in warfare history. His legacy lives on in every sniper who understands that patience, fieldcraft, and intimate knowledge of terrain can overcome technological disadvantages. The Ojibwe warrior from Georgian Bay had transformed indigenous hunting traditions into military tactics that changed the nature of warfare itself.